Picture this. You're sitting at your kitchen table, scrolling through the news on your phone, and each headline seems angrier than the last. Protest, accusations, fury. It all feels like the world is shouting, but while the shouting gets louder, something important is happening, quietly and behind the scenes. Hey there, friends. It's Steve here, your second or maybe your third favorite grandfather. My dad used to say the only thing you don't want to see being made is sausage and laws, and let me tell you, he wasn't wrong. Today, we're diving into political theater, the speeches, the slogans, and the outrage, and how it all leaves us feeling powerless. But here's the kicker. While we're out here arguing with each other, the real decisions are happening behind closed doors. Before we dive in, I want to share something important. I will never ask you for personal information. I'm not here to sell you anything, and I'll never slide into your DMs. Everything I talk about is completely free and available on my website if you're interested. In fact, at the end of the episode, I'll tell you how to download the free guide that goes with this show. I got a personal story from my time on Capitol Hill that I think will open your eyes to just how messy things can get. We'll unpack how politicians and the media rely on outrage to keep us distracted, how you can cut through the noise, and most importantly, how to reclaim your power in a system that often feels stacked against you. Let me take you back to 2004. I was spending a lot of time on Capitol Hill as a consumer debt expert. Bankruptcy reform was the hot topic of the day, and I was in the thick of it, meeting with lawmakers, testifying, fighting for changes that would help everyday Americans. One day, two lawyers from a prominent lobbying law firm came to my office. They were confident, polished, and professional. As they began their pitch, they placed a document on my desk, a draft copy of the bill they were planning to push through Congress. For a moment, it felt like I was in a scene from The Wizard of Oz. The curtain had been pulled back, and I was looking directly at the machinery of power. Here it was, a law already written to benefit their clients, waiting for Congress to rubber stamp it. The offer they made to me was simple. I paid them an ongoing commission. They'd tailor a section of this bill to favor my company. Now, I didn't feel disgusted. I actually felt disappointed. This wasn't the idealistic world of debate and compromise I'd imagined. It was transactional, it's calculated, and designed to favor those who could afford to play the game. For a moment, I thought about their offer. It would have been easy money. But then I thought about why I was there in the first place, to fight for fairness for people like you and me. Taking that deal would have meant betraying the very people I was trying to help. So, like an idiot, I said no. That moment stayed with me, not because it shocked me, but because it showed me how the system really works. Let's break it down. When a law is proposed, it starts as a bill, an idea someone wants to turn into a rule, and that bill goes to committees where lawmakers discuss it, rewrite it, and sometimes just toss it out entirely. But here's the twist. Lobbyists, professionals hired by corporations and industries or special interest groups, they play a huge role in shaping these bills. They bring research, data, and even pre-written drafts of laws to sympathetic lawmakers. And here's something I learned firsthand. Consumers don't have lobbyists. The average person has no one representing them. Corporations do. And during the bankruptcy reform debates, credit card companies had teams of lobbyists working day and night to shape the law in their favor. The result? A law that made it harder for regular Americans to file for bankruptcy while protecting corporate profits. Let me tell you a story. Let me tell you about Karen and Joe. Karen's a retired teacher who spends her mornings watching cable news and her afternoons posting online about how the other political party is ruining the country. Joe, he's a hardworking guy. He's a small business owner. He's always listening to talk radio in his truck and convinced that Karen's party is filled with idiots. Now, Karen and Joe aren't strangers. They're next-door neighbors, and they've been so for years. They've known each other for years. They used to chat over the fence about the weather and their kids, the neighborhood, the best local restaurants. But these days, it seems like every interaction turns into a cold glance, a muttered insult, or an argument. One morning, Karen steps outside to get the mail. She sees Joe's truck parked in the driveway, covered with bumper stickers, supporting his political beliefs, and she shakes her head and mutters, "How can anyone still believe the nonsense his side is pushing?" Joe happens to see her reaction. He sees her through the window and he grumbles, "What a brainwashed sheep," as he sips his coffee. Now, the sad reality is neither one is really listening to the other anymore. Karen assumes Joe's just a heartless fool. Joe assumes Karen's a clueless pawn. Both feel attacked, both feel righteous, and both feel misunderstood. And here's where it gets tricky. Karen and Joe are frustrated with each other, but they're not actually each other's enemies. They're victims of a system that thrives on division. The media bombards them with stories designed to provoke anger and fear, to generate emotion, while politicians encourage outrage to rally their supporters. And while Karen and Joe argue about headlines, the real decisions, the ones that impact their lives, they're happening far away in the quiet back rooms of Washington. It's not just Karen and Joe. This story plays out in neighborhoods and workplaces and families across the country. The divide grows wider, the anger gets louder, and the people who benefit from this, they're not the ones trading insults. They're the ones drafting laws, signing deals, and quietly moving forward with their own agendas. But here's the thing. It doesn't have to be this way. I have very close friends who belong to a different political party than I do. And you know what? We talk. We have discussions. I listen. They listen. And we don't argue. What I find is that overall, we have a lot more in common than divides us. We often end up saying the same thing. Why can't everyone do this? But then there are other people in my life, people I care about, who think I've absolutely lost my mind because of what they assume I believe. And that's the real kicker. These assumptions don't come from the conversations we've had. They come from the stories they've been told about people like me. What would happen if, instead of assuming, we all took a step back and started listening to each other again? What if Karen and Joe could find their way back to the fence and discover, like my friends and I have, that we're not so different after all? What I'm about to share may be a bit uncomfortable, but stick with me for a moment. It's important. When I see people pushing their politics on others, whether it's massive flags flapping in the wind, a car or a truck plastered with bumper stickers, or slogans mocking the other side, it's easy to see the frustration behind it. For some, it's about pride in their beliefs, and for others, it's about defiance. But here's the thing. What does that actually accomplish? This isn't about one side or the other. People on all parts of the political spectrum have ways of making their voices heard, whether it's loud protests, satirical signs, or those big flags you've probably seen flying during the last election. But here's the question. Does shouting your beliefs with symbols, stickers, or sarcasm actually help anyone? Or is it more like giving the middle finger to your neighbors? The person doing this often thinks they're standing tall for their values, but in reality, they're often being pulled along by a system that thrives on conflict. Media outlets feed people on both sides exaggerated narratives designed to drive engagement by stoking anger. That's how you keep a loyal audience. Politicians frame every issue as life or death to rally their base. And while we're busy waving flags and trading insults, the real decisions, the ones that shape our lives, they're being made behind closed doors. So let's take a step back for a second and think about how laws are actually made. Lobbyists and corporations are the ones at the table. They're drafting legislation and shaping policies in their favor. Meanwhile, media narratives are crafted not to inform but to inflame. And here's the harsh truth. While we're busy bickering with each other, not a damn thing changes. And here's the bigger danger. If we can't get along as citizens, if we keep shouting at each other instead of working together, we make it easier for someone to grab the power and reap the benefits. Division weakens us as a community and as a nation, leaving the door wide open for those with money and influence to shape the world in their favor. Not ours. So, I ask you, what's the purpose of covering your truck in bumper stickers, or your car, or taunting the other side with memes or flags or insults? Does it inspire real dialogue? Does it build bridges? Or does it just deepen the divide? Here's something to think about. Every minute we spend fighting with each other is a minute we're not holding the people in power accountable. Every ounce of energy we waste on outrage is energy we're not using to demand transparency, fairness, or even progress. So the next time you see someone doing this, or if you've caught yourself doing it, ask this. Who is this really helping? Because I promise you, the people benefiting from our anger and division aren't the ones shouting slogans. They're the ones shaping laws, writing checks, and counting on us to stay distracted and divided. But how about this? How about we stop being pawns in someone else's game? Let's redirect that energy into something that actually moves the needle. So what do? How do we keep from feeling powerless in a system like this? Well, here are 3 steps to help you cut through the noise and take back your sense of yourself and your agency. Step 1, don't take the bait. When headlines scream outrage, take a step back. Ask yourself, what's the real purpose of this story? Who benefits from my anger? This doesn't mean ignoring the news. It means engaging with it critically. Look past the noise and focus on the facts. Use an independent source like Ground News. Step 2, you could follow the money. If you want to understand what's really happening, look beyond the speeches. Who's funding the campaigns? Who's lobbying for the laws? There are tools like opensecrets.org that let you see who's bankrolling your representatives. By following the money, you can often uncover the true motivations behind the theater. Step 3, start small. Think local. While national politics gets all of the attention, real change often starts at the local level. You can support candidates who align with your values, attend town halls, or volunteer for causes that matter to you. Small, consistent actions can build collective power. And here's the key. If we want to make a difference, we have to focus on what we can control. Arguing with strangers online or rolling our eyes at neighbors won't fix a damn thing. But working together in our communities, that's where real power lies. You remember my dad's advice about sausage and laws? Just because the process is messy doesn't mean we should ignore it. In fact, understanding the mess is the first step towards cleaning it up. So let me leave you with this. Politics is like a magician's trick. The louder the crowd cheers, the easier it is to miss the sleight of hand. The question is, will you let yourself be distracted by the spectacle, or will you choose to look deeper? The political system can feel overwhelming, but don't let the mess make you feel powerless. Awareness is your rope out of the quicksand of outrage. Small actions, starting local and staying true to your values, are how you can reclaim your power and build momentum for real change. And don't forget, I got a free guide with tips and things you can do, all about this show, all about this subject. You can download it on my website on this show. Head over to oldguyinsights.me, hey, that's me, to grab your copy and explore more stories, more podcasts, and more resources. If this episode gave you a new perspective, hit subscribe and share it with a friend. Until next time, stay awesome, be kind to each other, and remember to do good things. See ya.